Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to this joint press point on the upgrade of EU-Mexican trade relations. Commissioner Cecilia Malmström and Mexican Secretary of Economy Ildefonso Guajardo met this morning before they participated in the CEPS conference upgrading the EU-Mexico Free Trade Agreement, where also a research study was presented on the positive effects of the EU-Mexico agreement. Let me now give the floor to Commissioner Malmström. There will be also time for questions after the remarks by both sides. Commissioner.
Thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Querido Ministro, es un placer tenerle aquí. The EU and Mexico are key partners, and that means that we have a strong and intense relationship linked through an agreement which in the last 15 years has multiplied our trade, investment, and have created economic growth and jobs both in the EU and in Mexico. Every week we trade more than €1 billion worth of goods and services between us, and our total shared foreign investment stocks are worth more than €120 billion. So this morning the Minister and I had the possibility to participate in a panel discussing the renewing of our free trade agreement that has been into force since 2000. And during these 15 years, a lot of things have changed in Europe, in Mexico, and in the world, of course. So our trade agreement has to react to the new reality. Our current FTA has removed most of the barriers and tariffs, and now our firms are facing other types of tariffs and barriers that we need to face. The EU has just now concluded an agreement with Canada. We are engaged in negotiations with the US, and we want to go further there. At the same time, also Mexico is expanding its trade and investment trade through Trans-Pacific Partnership and the work in the Pacific Alliance. So we are aiming for a new EU-Mexico deal that is comparable to our deal with Canada and the coming one with TTIP. We are therefore both committed to comprehensive and ambitious modernization of the existing agreement. Our teams have been working very intensively together to see how the future agreement would look like. And I'm happy to say that this scoping exercise has made good progress and is very close to its end. So today we start the next step, the process of launching negotiations to modernize our agreement. It is my intention to request from the Council of Ministers a mandate to launch negotiations to update the agreement already this fall. Of course, we have some internal procedures to complete before on our side and on the Mexican side, and we are preparing the ground for the EU-Mexican summit in a month's time when our leaders will meet. So I hope, and I'm looking forward to have intense meetings with you in the coming month, meeting you regularly, and thank you very much, Ildefonso, for your visit here today.
Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Cecilia. Buenos días a todo el mundo. Como ha dicho Cecilia, hemos mantenido una conferencia muy interesante patrocinada por un think tank de aquí de Bruselas. Me parece que las estadísticas hablan por sí mismas. Durante los últimos 15 años hemos tenido una excelente relación comercial. Cecilia ya les ha dado algunas cifras, pero yo pienso que las posibilidades son muchísimo más amplias de lo que...
Where the world trading system is in need of a strong support from all parties. It's an area where the European Union and Mexico coincide all the time, trying to push and strengthen the World Trade Organization. But at the same time, many bilateral agreements are happening around the world, plurilateral agreements. New trading nations like Korea and China are taking center stage. And therefore, the fact that the Mexico-European Free Trade Agreement was the first one to be signed in the Americas by Europe is definitely a good start, but we have to update that agreement. We have to update that agreement because today the European Union is basically completing an agreement with Canada. It's in the middle of negotiations in TTIP, and Mexico, being part of North America, needs to take a step ahead in order to be ready and to have the same standards of the new time agreement that includes many different areas that were not relevant 15 years ago. In Mexico's view, we have a shared and common interest in enhancing markets for agricultural goods, services, and investment. We have to update existing chapters of our agreement, like rules of origin, technical obstacles to trade, sanitary and phytosanitary measures, government procurement, and intellectual property. And we have to add new generation areas or topics like regulatory coherence, respecting the rights of consumers, trade and investment in energy, trade and sustainable development through the labor and environmental charters that have to be considered in this new attempt. We are very, very glad that the new mood in Brussels about this agreement is in top shape, and we will be working closely with the Commissioner to really move as fast as possible in order to finish the scoping exercise and definitely be ready for the next visit of President Peña to Brussels, which will happen in June 11 and 12, with the meeting of the Mexico-European agenda. And we hope that at that point we'll be ready to announce that we'll be getting closer to launch negotiations, as Cecilia just mentioned, before the end of this year. We are very thankful for all your attentions today, and we'll be looking forward to work closely with you in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Yes, please.
Commissioner, Marcia Bisotto from Notimex, Mexican news agency. You mentioned that Mexico and European Union trade faces new barriers. Or which are the main barriers that are new now?
Well, as I said, and the Minister referred to it, our agreement is 15 years old, and at that time we mainly focused on tariffs. But today there's so much else. We have, we trade in services, we trade in energy, digital technology, etc. So we need to adapt it to the modern reality of trade. That was not covered for natural reasons in 2000. So that's why we are looking at modernizing in a whole range of issues. I think the Minister made a good list of what we are trying to do.
Yes, please.
From Reforma newspaper, Mexico. We see that some ONGs have been complaining about the behavior of some companies in Mexico, some European companies. In the future, how you will deal with these challenges to avoid abuse of companies in Mexico? Will be a mechanism of control of environment and labor rights in Mexico for European companies? And the second question will be about the free trade agreement negotiations. How much time will it take? I mean, is this, we know when it starts, but we never know when we'll end. But this will be linked to the negotiation with the United States, or we totally separate? Thank you.
Let me share with you the experience that Mexico had after signing free trade agreements with many different countries, 46 countries in the world. When we negotiated our first big trade agreement in 1993, that came into force in 1994, there was always the debate about how to protect the environmental and labor standards of Mexico. The reality after that is that with foreign direct investment, corporate standards of global companies became even higher standards than the normal requirements of many labor laws or environmental laws. So this debate has a very, very false basis to really make this statement that through trade agreements, foreign direct investment will come to lower the levels of ambition of environmental standards, of labor standards. So, but just to make sure that that is definitely committed in the agreement, part of the scoping exercise is to include labor and environmental issues within the agreement, just like we are doing in TPP today. So basically, I think that we should not worry. And what those agreements do is guarantee that countries that are involved in these agreements basically apply their own laws. there is not application of foreign laws in this process.
Just to add to this, that European firms are of course obliged to follow Mexican laws, as Mexican firms will be obliged to follow European laws. So that's a fact. But we will be looking also in the upgrading of the agreement to have a chapter on sustainable rights, as we have very good discussions on these issues already, and then exact how it will be phrased will be depending on the mandate. And on the timetable, I know that this is also a question that journalists ask, but we haven't really started the negotiations yet. My aim, and I hope, provided that the Council give its mandate, that we can start the negotiations this fall, and then, well, it will take the necessary time. That is not dependent on our other negotiations, of course. It will depend on the pace and of the progress that we make together in our agreement. And it's a little bit too early to give a timetable for that yet.
Always help that in this case we're upgrading an existing agreement.
Any other question? I don't see any, so I think this may conclude our press point. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Minister. Have a nice day.